Now, first on BBC One from Johannesburg, a change to the build episode of Question Time with David Dimbleby.
Tonight, a special edition of Question Time. We're in Johannesburg, our panel partly made up of a new generation worried about the way this country is going, partly made up of people who worked with Nelson Mandela, and with our audience here to debate what the future holds now that Mandela is gone. Welcome to Question Time. And on our panel tonight, Lindiwe Zulu, who's on the NEC of the African National Congress and is an advisor on international relations to President Zuma. Lindiwe Mazibuko, parliamentary leader of the official opposition party, the Democratic Alliance, and one of South Africa's youngest MPs. Pik Botha, foreign minister in the last apartheid government, who later joined the ANC, the African National Congress. The radical black consciousness activist, Andile Mngxama, the journalist and radio presenter, Eusebius McKaiser, and the African-born British Labour MP, leading campaigner against apartheid, Peter Hain. And Pop Motsisi has our first question, please.
Given the booing and the jeering towards the president, which we witnessed a few days ago, does the ANC still have the majority of South Africans behind it?
Lindiwe Mazibuko.
I think it was a really interesting moment for South Africans. Many people are saying it was outrageous to interrupt Utata's funeral, his memorial, with this jeering at President Zuma, who wasn't the person we gathered to honor that day. Many other people are saying it was great that South Africans felt free to express themselves and to express their discontentment. I think it was not ideal. I would have liked for President Mandela to have an honorable send-off without those kinds of politics, but perhaps the world needs to know where South Africa is. And to answer your question, yes, there is massive dissatisfaction with President Zuma. There's massive dissatisfaction with the ANC, but President Zuma is at the center of that dissatisfaction. Issues around corruption, lack of delivery, he's become a symbol of what's wrong with the ANC. And I think increasingly people are willing to speak out about that. And what I hope is that it'll actually materialize at the ballot. It doesn't help if people only complain, during times of mourning. People must express themselves democratically, and then perhaps we can start to move towards a more vibrant multi-party democracy.
Okay. Lindiwe Zulu.
Yes, it was very unfortunate that the choice of expression, of the freedom of expression, and the booing of the president on a day like this. It is something that, as South Africans, all of us, including us in the African National Congress, are completely and utterly disgusted with, as a matter of fact. The bottom line is that in the African National Congress, if people have got issues that they need to deal with, they've got a platform within the African National Congress to raise those issues. They've been open to do so. And if the African National Congress needs to take a decision on the basis of its principles, that decision will be taken by the African National Congress, how to deal with this. This is what shouldn't have happened. We are respecting the greatest man to have lived during our time.
What about the antagonism it shows toward President Zuma?
It doesn't matter what antagonism people might have had on President Zuma at that point in time. The fact of the matter is that we had almost 100 and something heads of state visiting South Africa to give respect to Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. That should have never been a platform for anybody who was unhappy with anything, irrespective of which political party comes from. The worst is when it comes from the African National Congress.
Absolutely.
Because the African National Congress believes that its own members should not find themselves in that space.
All right.
But let's put it in the context of the fact that we have a memorial service.
I think you made the point. The gentleman up there, and I'll come to you, Eusebius. The man up there on the gangway, yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Bongani Xezwi, and I would like to mention something. During the time of apartheid, when P.W. Botha and his member were shooting at comrades, we didn't see or killing comrades from PAC and other activists. in within funerals, ANC and other people will say Viva ANC, and that's where we'll mobilize and educate people in within funerals. People are tired of the president that splits on Mandela's name. Like people were frustrated seeing the president that oppressed the poor, the president that keeps on introducing bills that we are annoyed with, secrecy bill, spy bill, e-tolling and all that.
So are you saying it was right to boo if you felt like that during,
I think like,
during the memorial?
I think we all love that and we all respect what it did for this country. And there's no dispute about it. But what I'm saying is that there's no platform of expressing our feelings. It was also a panel where we can express our feelings.
Why you say when there's no platform of expression? We're sitting here. This is the very platform where people have to express themselves. Yeah. In our homes, we express ourselves. I don't know.
You see this.
No, I've got to intervene here. I mean, I think Lindiwe, you completely... Yes, like the government of the day, Lindiwe is misreading the mood of the country. That's what it's fundamentally about. David, as a South African, I'm not disgusted by the booing. I think what's too easy to do is to say that it's bad decorum at a memorial service for the greatest global icon to boo. What's harder to do is to ask yourself, why would a nation in mourning do something that goes against what is decent? That's the question to ask.
Hold on a second. Pick Botha.
I hate.
Hold on, yes?
If I may.
Yes, you may.
There's a challenge. He passed away, but his legacy cannot die. And I think there's a challenge for all of us, for the government, the citizens, the churches, the private sector. I think we must go and reflect. Are we honoring his legacy? Or are we violating that legacy?
And did you think that booing violated the legacy?
I am hesitant. I'm making an appeal now. Let us do what he did. He refused to be dictated to by the bitterness of his past and 27 years in prison, and decided for himself that if we want to make progress in this country, we must forgive and we must move forward. And his words to me were, and we often met alone privately at his request, but we need each other to succeed.
But I'm sorry to stop you in mid-flow, but the question is whether President Zuma is unpopular and whether it was right of a section of the crowd to boo him despite the fact it was Mandela's memorial, which drew a lot of international attention, as you know.
David, listen. The memorial is for Mr. Mandela. I think we must not argue and have unpleasant discussions. I think we must concentrate on his legacy and what he did for all of us and his dreams. And then from now on, the ANC included, they are not excluded, they must also ask themselves, are we true to his legacy? Do we know him? How often have you met him? How often have you had discussions with him? Where were you when he divorced Winnie? Did you phone him? Did you side with him? This is my point. We were together. And we had discussions of a private nature. When I had a cancer operation, prostate, when I came by, he was standing next to my bed, taking my hand and saying, Puck, we want you to get well. I went through the same ordeal. We need each other.
Okay.
We must, this is what the purpose must be.
All right. I'll come back to the question. Andy.
I think it's unfortunate that there is emphasis on one aspect of Mandela's legacy, and this legacy is reconciliation without justice. In fact, Mandela is a revolutionary. He takes up arms. He questions authority. He wants justice. So if Jacob Zuma is the representative of a government that does not listen to people, then we are going to question that. And we'll question it. We must question it at all times. And I want to argue that the booing is consistent with questioning of an authority that refuses to listen to the people.
The woman up there at the very back, in the yellow dress. Yes, you.
I would like to ask to the ANC lady.
Yes.
Because she's telling us about the platform, the right platform. And yet, the ANC never show us the respect in the first place. If the ANC did listen to the people in the first place, that booing, shouldn't even try to be happening on that day. Because the ANC never give us the right platform.
You don't give a
express
platform
what
to
we're
people
supposed
like
to say
her
to them.
to make their voices heard.
Well, may I say that the platforms that she is talking about is a platform where each and every one of us, each and every time we had to vote for a government, we have freely gone to elections without any harassment, without any intimidation. That is a platform, because it's a platform for you to decide who you want to vote for, number one.
Okay.
Number two, we have given the platform because the communities in which we live, we have said ourselves, those communities have got a platform where they can express themselves. You've got local structures where you need to know where those local structures are. You need to know who your MP is. You need to know who is your local structure. Those are the structures that you have to express yourself.
At the heart of all of Lindiwe's responses is this fundamental refusal to actually engage with why people are angry. You say that there are platforms and there are structures. You have a lady in the audience saying, where are the platforms, where are the structures? People feel like they don't have a way to engage the ANC to make it change its behavior. So I think, David, you're asking the wrong question. It's not right to ask whether it was wrong or whether it was right. It simply is a reflection of where South Africa is.
In a moment. The man in the third row there, and then I'll come to the woman there. Yes.
Yeah, my name is Torong Ramela. And then I want to say it out clear that Jacob Zuma, he has lost the respect and the popularity of the South African. The lady who's sitting in the panel, she's defending the undefensible. In fact, she's fooling herself in a full river without a full stop.
Peter, do you want to come in on this? Peter Hain.
Well, I was startled by it because this was an event to commemorate probably the greatest figure of our generation, not just in South Africa, but right across the world. So I was startled, but in a way, having a year ago filmed a documentary for the BBC on what was going on in South Africa after the Marikana massacre, I wasn't surprised because there is a lot of resentment at the grassroots about an unwillingness on the part of the leadership, in particular the president, to actually listen to people and to reflect their wishes. So in a way, I wasn't surprised, but I do think now the key thing for the ANC leadership is to take the country forward and to listen to people. If it does that, then as a supporter of the ANC, then I believe it can succeed. But a lot of people here I've found, including ANC members and past activists like Ronnie Kasrils in the freedom struggle, you know, one of the leaders of MK, the underground organization alongside Nelson Mandela, very, very critical of the present leadership. And I think it's very important the present leadership listens to that.
Okay. The lady in white there on the front, yes. And then the lady there in white.
Yeah, actually I've been bothering about this thing of platforms that the lady's talking about. Because now she's saying we have been given the platforms with our votes, which means we're going to speak, they're going to give us the platform on the dates of the votes. After, they are no longer coming back to us until the 5 years, so that they come back to us.
And you, sir.
I just want to ask the lady of the ANC, President Zuma didn't ask our permission to build his house, his swimming pool, the e-tiles and stuff. Why must we ask the permission not to boo him?
The house being the one in contention that cost something like £12 million or something?
200 million.
Yes. What do you say to that?
Well, in relation to giving permission, I don't think the president has ever come out to say he wants you to have permission to boo or not to boo. Let's put things in perspective, because if we are going to be jumping all over the show, we're going to end up not being focused. Firstly, we're talking about the booing. And I made the statement very clearly from the African National Congress point of view. That happened there was not illegal, but it was ethically not correct. Because the platform which we were on was a platform of giving respect to former President Nelson Mandela. And I said it in my speaking.
You were reported as saying that those responsible, that it was humiliating, and those responsible will be dealt with.
Well, absolutely.
Did you say that?
Absolutely. When our own members, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. These are members of the African.
How can you object?
These are members of the African National Congress. We've got a constitution in the ANC. We've got regulations in the ANC. We've got rules in the ANC. So when you break those rules of the ANC, there must be a consequence. If it was not members of the ANC, some other people, then we would not say we will deal with them. In this particular case, we know as a matter of fact, it was our own.
This is very chilling. This is very chilling. What are you going to do? Are you going to get?
Don't mix it.
Are you going to get surveillance footage? Are you going to do a witch hunt? Are you going to look for people, discipline them?
Can I get this opportunity?
How can you say on a platform to celebrate
Can I get this opportunity?
Just explain briefly.
Wait.
You were saying it's only ANC members you're after.
We know because when it happened, it was embarrassing. And therefore, the people who are responsible for the event, which is government, had to go and speak to them and ask them that even if you've got problems, can we at least get this event over? And then you can deal with your problems.
All right. Very briefly.
And that's why we know that there were ANC members.
Eusebius.
Two very quick points. Firstly, I thought the first propaganda defense was that it was actually EFF who was responsible.
Yeah.
But
well, that's your propaganda.
In addition to that, the most important point, David, is that the ANC, because of its large electoral majority, feels invincible. And I think they are taking a risk. They can potentially commit suicide with this kind of arrogance. You don't deal with people, you introspect.
All right.